All right, and it says we're live. Hey everyone, Tuesday, 5 p.m. You know where to find us, and here we are again this week. If you are joining us, I am so glad, as always. Make sure to let us know if you are here joining us. We want to know if you're here, want to give you credit for hanging out with us tonight. Hope y'all are staying safe, and I hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend. I know I did. I missed you guys last week, so I'm glad to be back, and am looking forward to you guys letting me know what's been going on with you, like we did in person. If you want to check in the chat, please do so. But yeah, we will get started here in just a moment. All right, we got two with us. Lindsay, is there any way you could do full screen? Because right now the Zoom call is showing a primarily black screen. Let me see if that did it. There we go. Perfect. All right. It says we got two people watching. So if you're here, say hey. I know I'm one of those people, so singling you out, whoever you are. Want to say hey to you.
Well, Josh is on the chat. Is there anybody else besides you and Josh, maybe?
It says two people. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell me who's in the chat. It just says how many people. I will go send out the link real quickly. That might get some people on here. Well, let me check my calendar real quick and get that date for you. Yep, so I've got next week as the last financial literacy financial class, and then I've got my guest coming on the 15th. And then we'll begin the next series on the 22nd, and then we're going to have a guest again on 6/29. Is that adding up with what you had in mind? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Hey, there's somebody. Hi, Sunny. All right, I'm going to send out the link to a few folks, see if we can get some more. And then after that, we'll go ahead and get started. Does that sound okay?
Great.
All right, awesome. There's Glenda. Hi, Glenda. Okay, my phone's freezing up, but I sent it out to quite a few folks. So they might hop on here in just a moment, but let's go ahead and hop into it and we will welcome those as they join us. So without further ado, I'll kick it over to you, Lindsay.
Awesome. Thanks, Casey. Welcome, everybody. Tonight is pretty short and sweet, actually. We're talking about bank forms, but if there's anything that we don't cover that's related to just banking documents in general, just pop those questions in the chat as we're going through, and then we'll pick up questions and answers at the end. So we had some questions that came in during previous classes around filling out checks and deposit forms and just some of those things that you might find whenever you visit the bank. And if you haven't seen them for the first time, it can be a little intimidating to figure out what goes where. So hopefully tonight we'll clear some of that up. First, we'll start with a check. This is a pretty typical check layout. So your information, if you've got either a checking account or a savings account, you'll get checks. Typically, your bank will give you temporary checks until your actual checkbook comes in. When you get a checkbook that comes in, you can pick whatever check number that you want it to start at. It doesn't have to start at 1. A lot of people will choose to start their checks at like a random number or even 999 or something like that, because it helps to prevent fraud. So if someone tells you have like bank check 1 or bank check 2, they might consider you as maybe a naive person or a novice person. They might try to take advantage of you. So that's usually like a little streetwise tip, is to start your checks at a higher number. But until you actually get your checks, and sometimes you have to pay for them and sometimes you don't, depending on your bank. So you might have to order like a book of checks for, $20 or something like that, maybe $10, or some bank accounts will just give you checks, but you'll get maybe like 10 temporary checks until your real checks come in. So if that happens, you will have to write your information, so your name and your address, your phone number at the top left-hand corner. And then of course, anytime that you want that changed, you can call your bank. If you move, for example, and you have a different address, or if you change your phone number, then it might make sense for you to get new checks, right? So you could call your bank, order more checks. Some people don't choose to do that, but it helps because it's good information in case something goes wrong with the transaction. Okay, so your personal information is up there on the left. The date, it goes on the right. Usually that's the date that you're making that transaction happen. So it's like that day that you're writing the check. But some people might future date a check, right? So if you're like shipping, or if you're like mailing something, or if you're writing a check, you might date it for like the Friday where you might get paid. So that way, whenever they go to take out those funds, that date that you write the check for, that amount will clear. That's another tip too, is just like to pre-dating a check until the time that you're gonna have the money in your account. And then this first line that you're gonna write in is who you're paying to. This Acme grocery shop, that is who you're paying the money to. It's like me, Kroger, or anyone that's accepting checks. You write the number. So $8.15. They did like a little squiggly line. You don't have to do any line at all. You can just write $8.15. You don't have to do a dollar sign. That's already there for you. So, and then you write on this next line, they wrote 8 and 15 over 100. Most people write $8 and 15 cents out of 100 cents. If this was 8 or this was $108 or $108, you could write it either way. Some people write $108, and some people write 108. Either way is fine. Don't try to overthink it. It usually just becomes an issue if it's a long number. And so sometimes you might want to conserve space. You don't have to write anything in this memo line, but it is good if you are keeping up with, if you're writing a lot of checks and you're not keeping up with like a checkbook, where you're like writing down every check and where it goes. So once you see it clear in your bank account, you can like click on the check and it'll actually show you an image of the written check. So if you forgot that you wrote a check for $8 to go have lunch with friends, you could like pull it up and like, wait, what was that from? And then you have that memo to help you remember what that's for. Or if you're sending a check in the mail, or if you're dropping it for like rent or something, you got to put your apartment number, your address, and that way whoever is receiving the check would know what that money is for. And then sign it. A check won't clear unless it's signed, so it has to be signed. So one thing that you might get asked, especially if you are renting and you're wanting to do like a direct deposit of any kind, or if you're working and you want to do a direct deposit, they will ask you about your bank account information. And so they'll ask you what your routing number is and what your account number is. So you can think about these numbers at the bottom going from like biggest to smallest, or like most vague and broad to most specific. So it starts with the routing number, which is the bank. It's specific to the bank. And then the account number, which is specific to you. And then the check number, which you typically don't need for a direct deposit. That's just the order that they are on the check. It goes from the bank information to your information to that check number. So it goes from biggest to smallest. All right, the next form we're going to talk about is the deposit slip. So anytime that you go to the bank and you want to put money into your account, you could have cash, or you could have checks, or you could have both. So what you need to do is obviously the date and name, account number, signature, that's all pretty standard. But if you have a cash and check, just pay attention. So currency, that's going to be your cash. It's really good to separate that out into dollars and cents. You will do your bank teller a favor by separating out dollars from cents. That's why that line is there. It helps you add it up easier too. And then you separate your checks out. Now on this image, they did checks on that first line, but really the reason why you have all these empty spaces below the word checks is so you can write your check numbers. So if I were filling out this deposit slip, I would probably move that 150 and 100 down a line. So that way I would have this space over here to the left to write down the check number, just to keep everything really clear. Now, the purpose of the deposit slip is that it's a paper trail for you and the bank to be really sure about what you're putting into your account. And so that there's no question or confusion later on if you thought you had deposited more or less. Now, if you just have checks and you wanted to take out cash, you could do that. So let's say you didn't have this $25.75, you just had 2 checks and you wanted to take out $25, and that's what this less cash is just however much money that you want to keep or retain. And then you just take your total of what you're putting in minus the total of what you're taking out, and then that's your net deposit. The withdrawal slip is pretty straightforward, even more so than the deposit slip, because it's just how much money you want to take out. So you've got a spot for your account number down here, and again, that's going to be the middle number on your checks. Okay, or if you're going to the bank, you can just give your driver's license and they can tell you what your account number is. Date, name, signature, all that's pretty standard. And then the amount separated again in dollars and cents. This is just really, again, a paper trail. So if there's any question later on, you know exactly how much money you requested to take out of your account. All right, now we're going to talk about money orders and cashier checks. So money orders are a guaranteed form of paper payment, which sounds a lot like a check, but they are not a check, because unlike a check, they can't bounce. So it's really, that's why it's a guaranteed form of payment, is because whenever you go purchase a money order, which you could do at like a retail bank, like a Wells Fargo, you can do that at the post office. Some retailers might do this, your grocery store, like a Kroger would do this. So you can go get a money order, but you pay for that. There's a fee. So like the US Post Office, they might charge like $1.25. Some retailers will charge up to like $5. Sometimes it's tiered too. So, you know, if it's like less than $500, it might be $1.25. If it's more than that, it could be like $1.75 or something. So usually you want to cap that at about $1,000. You really don't see money orders more than $1,000. But there is a fee because, again, it's a guaranteed form of payment. So you are paying for that paper. That way you can give it to someone else. And you can pay it with a debit card, but you can't pay it with a personal check or a credit card because those aren't guaranteed transactions. And then a cashier's check, very similar, but unlike a money order, it comes straight from the bank. So the cashier's check you can go get from a retailer, grocery store, or whatever, post office. Money orders come from the bank. They also have a fee, and they're usually signed by two of the bank tellers because it has another like added layer of security. So then the question is, okay, they sound like they're basically the same thing, and in a lot of ways they are. So here's some differences where you might consider filling out a cashier's check versus a money order. So cashier's check is usually more than $1,000 purchases because it does have that additional protection. It is at a bank, but this is only applicable to those who have a bank account. So you can't go get a cashier's check from a bank if you don't have an account with them. So that's kind of like the caveat. And then if you don't have a bank account, that's when you have to do a money order, where you can go to Kroger, pay $5, and get your guaranteed form of payment. And those are usually less than $1,000 purchases, just because they don't have that additional security. Because once you have a money order in your hand, it's basically like cash that's been cleared. It's basically like cash walking around with like $1,000 in your hand. So if you lose that, you kind of blow it. Whereas with a cashier's check, if you happen to lose your cashier's check, there is a little additional security. You might have an opportunity to cancel it that you wouldn't have with a money order. So those are all the bank forms. We have the check, the deposit slip, the withdrawal slip, money order, and cashier's check. Now, if you have any other questions about bank forms or anything else that we've talked about up to this point, anything related to, we talked about taxes last week, or anything with accounting or, credit, debt, please drop those in the chat. We'll take your comments whenever you guys are ready.
Yeah, any questions or comments about this or something that we've talked about, in the past couple of weeks, or anything finance related? Yeah, let us know in the chat and we will talk it up. So I do have a question, Lindsay. A lot of the things that you are showing us on here, what's your opinion on like doing that online? Because my bank offers, I'm with Bank of America, and they I can deposit and do pretty much all of my bank stuff, almost all of it online, which has been pretty nice. Do you have any thoughts about online banking as opposed to doing it in person?
Yeah, I am totally an advocate for online banking. I've been doing it for a long time. Yeah, maybe 15 plus years now, as soon as we could. Been doing online banking, never had an issue with it. Take a picture of my check. Technology continues to advance. The thing about banks is that it's super secure. Their banks are not as secure as, you don't have the same level of protections with a credit card company. Credit card companies actually provide additional protection than banks, but because of the level of security that you have, and it also depends on like your Wi-Fi you're connected to. So always make sure like you see that that secure, Wi-Fi and login. Like that was my only caveat, is to not try to do bank transactions using like a public or unsecured Wi-Fi, because then you're putting yourself at risk. But if you're in your home, it's your Wi-Fi or it's secure Wi-Fi, then like go for it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually have not thought of that. I think from this point forward, I'll probably, I've got a data plan, so I'll probably just switch off that Wi-Fi and use data if I'm ever doing any banking where I'm not, where it's not secure. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's actually not something that I've thought of. So that's a really good point. But yeah, I'm also a fan of online banking. I used to like keep a bank statement, or not a bank statement. It's been a while, but like where you actually, instead of where you can look at your statement online and it shows you all the history of your expenses, of your deposits and withdrawals, I was like writing it down manually. And I got over that so quickly. So I love to do it online. I can write checks and deposit checks online. Even when I've seen some charges come up on my bank statement that are not mine, I've been able to handle that online too. So it can be very easy. So if it's intimidating to any of you guys, like I don't get all this bank stuff, this is kind of weird. Online can help you make it pretty easy. So that's my 2 cents. We got William joining us. Hey, William. But yeah, any questions or comments, guys? I'm gonna hop over the chat and see if we've got any discussion going. A few people saying that they do money orders quite a bit. That's pretty much it. Any questions or comments, guys, about checks, bank
My
forms?
caution with the money order too. I mean, I'd really caution against sending money orders. It's like putting in like cash, in the mail. And so I would, anytime you have a money order, and I used to get money orders all the time because that's where, I had to for just different reasons. But just treat it like cash, because that's basically what it is. It's a guaranteed form of payment, but it's cash to that person. So, get a money order as late as you can before you have to give it someone, and don't put it in the mail, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, now that's interesting. There are a lot of places that want you to mail money orders, like for getting birth certificates out of state. They always tell you to mail the money order. What would you do in that situation? Because we usually try to like insure the envelopes whenever we send those out, just because, and do that priority shipping so that they have as little time in the mail as possible.
Yeah, so when you buy insurance, make sure that it covers whatever that money order amount is. So that's the other thing with the insurance is a great idea. I'd definitely do that. But just always have insurance to cover that amount. So if it does get lost or something happens, you're good.
Yeah. Awesome point. Awesome point. Awesome point. Alrighty, I'm not seeing a whole lot of activity. We said someone they do money orders for rent. Yep. That's very common. Money orders and cashier's checks all the time for rent. I do online checks for when I pay my rent. It has to be an online check. So a lot of people say that checks are dead and you shouldn't use them anymore, but that's just not true. Some places that's all they take. So gotta know how to do it.
Yeah, no, I do know a place and they only take checks by mail, and they refuse to update. So it still exists. It still happens.
Yeah, from time to time, we're all gonna run into places that are not gonna be down with technology, down with the times, and that's okay. That's all right, to each their own. So all righty, well, not seeing any action. I think we could probably go ahead and wrap up for the evening. Last call for questions or comments. Of course, you guys can continue to comment on here, because we do get notifications whenever we get comments on the videos, even if it's in the chat. So let us know if you guys have any thoughts. Join us next week. We're going to continue talking about money. Super relevant to all of us. We all got to know about money. It's necessary to survive. So would love to see you all back there. I'm glad to see you guys virtually. I hope before too long we are going to open up our brand new center, and we're thinking we can maybe do some things in person. So just start getting excited about that. So I'm excited, but alrighty. Well, if we're anything else, Lindsay?
All set. I think that's it.
Cool. Sounds good. Alrighty. Well, we'll go ahead and sign off, and I will catch you guys next week. You guys stay safe, and we'll see you same time next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.